Welcome. This week we start a new series, Call of Duty. I am currently at Bergendal, where in 1900, 74 brave men held this hill against a 3-hour bombardment of over 40 big guns. It was one of the most concentrated, heaviest bombardments of artillery on such a small area that the world had ever seen to that date. After the bombs stopped falling, those surviving men stood up, dusted themselves off, and then took aim at 1,500 infantrymen swarming up the hill towards them. It doesn't matter if they were black or white or what side of the war they were on. These brave souls were willing to sacrifice their lives for the love of their country. Welcome. My name is Sean McGregor of Ecolegus Environmental Consultants based in Mpumalanga, South Africa. And we're on a mission to empower all South Africans to protect their environment through the correct interpretation and application of our environmental legislation. So if you want to learn how our environmental law applies to you, how to avoid unnecessary and costly mistakes, if you just want to increase your knowledge and skills to reduce your reliance on external consultants, if you're in need of mentorship or you want to earn CPD points for professional registration, then you'll want to subscribe to this channel. Don't forget to click on the bell notification icon so that you can be notified the moment we upload a new video. And we would sincerely appreciate your help or support in spreading the message, particularly if you know of anyone else who can benefit by liking them. Thank you. How many of us today could say that we would die like some of our forefathers fighting for this country? And it's not a political question. I'm not talking about the government. I'm talking about this land and its beautiful people. I hope this story will ignite a spark of inspiration to help us step up to the plate and do what is needed to protect this land, to protect our environment. Now, the very soul of a people is passed down through its generations by storytelling. And when the principles of a story are so powerful and they cannot afford to be forgotten or lost, we entrench them into legislation, like our duty of care and remediation of environmental damage written into Section 28 of the National Environmental Management Act. It's time that we all start being leaders. The title of this video is Take Control, Duties. Section 28.1 reads, every person who causes, has caused or may cause significant pollution or degradation of the environment must take reasonable measures to prevent such pollution or degradation from occurring, continuing or recurring, or insofar as such harm to the environment was authorized by law or cannot reasonably be avoided or stopped, to minimize and rectify such pollution or degradation of the environment. Now, the person whose obligation it will be to take these reasonable measures will include the owner of a land, the person in control of a land, or a person who has the right to use that land on which the cause occurs. I'm going to read those kinds of reasonable measures that are available to a person. And the first two measures are actually proactive measures that can be implemented before any pollution or degradation occurs. They include, firstly, to investigate, assess, and evaluate the impact on the environment. Secondly, to inform and educate employees about the environmental risks of their work and the manner in which their tasks must be performed in order to avoid causing significant pollution or degradation of the environment. To cease, modify, or control any act, activity, or process causing the pollution or degradation. To contain or prevent the movement of pollutants or the causant of degradation. To eliminate any source of pollution or degradation, and finally, to remedy the effects. And so to summarize the last 4 points, that would be to cease the activity, contain the movement, eliminate the source, and then remedy the effects. The Director General or a provincial head of department may, after having given affected persons adequate opportunity to inform him or her of their relevant interests, direct any person who is causing, has caused, or may cause significant pollution or degradation of the environment to 1. Cease any activity, operation, or undertaking. Then 2. Investigate, evaluate, and assess the impact of specific activities and then report thereon. To commence taking specific measures before a given date, diligently continue with those measures, and then to finally complete those measures before a specified reasonable date. The competent authority, however, can, if it believes that urgent action is necessary to protect the environment, immediately issue a directive and then consult and give such adequate opportunity to inform as soon thereafter as is reasonable. If there is significant pollution or degradation of the environment and the responsible person fails to take their own initiative to implement reasonable measures, or they fail to comply with the directive, or even if they fail to comply adequately with the directive, then the competent authority can implement reasonable measures to remedy the situation and then recover those costs. And those costs can be recovered not only from the responsible person, but also anyone else who is directly or indirectly involved or contributed rather to the pollution or degradation of the environment, to the landowner of that land and the owner's successor in title. That's why it's so important these days to do a due diligence before buying property. The cost can also be recovered from the person in control of that land or who has a right to use that land, and or any person who negligently failed to prevent the cause of pollution or degradation. If a person responsible for significant pollution or degradation of the environment fails to act, or even if the competent authority fails to act, then any person can apply to a competent court for an order directing the competent authority to take those steps I described earlier. That person must, however, first give the competent authority a 30 days notice, and then only apply to the competent court if the competent authority fails to inform that person in writing that he or she has actually issued a directive to the responsible person to take those steps. Then, just out of interest, and in terms of section 33 of NEMA relating to private prosecution, any person may, in the public interest or in the interest of protecting the environment, institute and conduct a prosecution in respect of any breach of any duty, other than a public duty on an organ of state, in any national or provincial legislation or municipal bylaw, or any regulation, license, permission, or authorization issued in terms of such legislation, where the duty concerned is with the protection of the environment and the breach of that duty is an offence. I want to conclude by highlighting two very important implications that I got out of section 28. Firstly, the government has identified activities that pose a potential risk of pollution or degradation to the environment during their development and or operation. We call these listed or specified activities. And we manage those risks proactively by undertaking either a basic or environmental impact assessment to specifically create an environmental management program and obtain an environmental authorization prior to commencing with those activities. Section 28 basically covers everything else. It doesn't just cover present or past pollution or degradation, but it also addresses the potential occurrence of future pollution or degradation. It compels us to evaluate, investigate, and assess impacts on the environment, to specifically prevent pollution or degradation from occurring, or where it cannot reasonably avoid it, then to at least minimize and rectify those impacts. In other words, the least we can do is undertake an environmental impact assessment on activities that will potentially impact the environment. Then secondly, and when read together with section 33, you'll realize that we don't just have to stand on the sidelines, that every single one of us who has a passion for our country, a passion and love for our environment, we can do something about it. We have the legal recourse to get a person who is in breach of their duty to step up to the plate and take responsibility. And that's it. We really hope this has been helpful, and thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. If you have joined the MP or Incorsi tiers of our membership program, you will receive an additional video. We look at the equivalent section of the National Water Act and then compare the two. If you aren't a member yet, then check out our membership program on Patreon. Otherwise, if you're looking for a consultant to help you with a once-off project, you're welcome to visit our website. Check out our previous video up here. We looked at hazardous waste and how it needs to be managed. Then in the next video, we continue with the same series, Call of Duty. We cover Section 30 incidents, particularly how one needs to prepare for them. Otherwise, subscribe, click on the bell notification icon so you can be notified the moment we upload a new video. And please help spread the message, particularly if you know of anyone else who can benefit from these videos, by liking them. Thank you, God bless, and keep strong.